Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spotlight on CS Ops. I'm here with my partner in crime, Matthew Lin.
Jean, great to see you.
Great to see you as well. Today, we're speaking with Rob Steinberg. He's coming to us from a wonderful career in customer success and now transitioned to customer success consultant. He previously worked with brands like SAP, the very small company, and also was previously a management consultant prior to that with PwC and KPMG. So a bit of experience there, Rob. Pleasure to have you on the show to come and join us.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Matthew. It's a real pleasure.
Tell us,
Yeah, to kick off. Tell us more about yourself. That is quite a resume or quite a name drop, if you will, of companies that you've been affiliated with. So tell
No,
us more.
yeah, absolutely, and yeah, exactly. Not to exactly date myself, but that's exactly that's right. Started the career way back when as a coder, and then Jean, as you had mentioned, a system implementer, if you will, rolled into pre-sales. So it's the common theme through all this has always been customer facing, customer focused, if you will, with that. But 32 years with SAP. The last 20 was around customer success. If you want to think about way back when, back in 2007, there was one of the divisions of SAP had an on-prem software, but they were changing their business model to be recurring, and they wanted to pilot a program that basically evolved into their customer success management program. I put up my hand, said, I love working with the customers. I want to continue to maintain a relationship with them. Put me in as the pilot person for this as the CSM. Evolved into, as the program evolved into more of the handling more customers complex, moving into being the CSM for SAP, one of their CSMs. So you're looking at clients, global technology companies, global telecom companies as being ones that I managed. And then, always a theme to give back. Okay, so there was an opportunity to take their program to the next level, and then went into a global strategy around the enterprise customer success management role. So very excited with that. And Jean, as you had mentioned, now moved into the next career chapter. And it's really getting into a CS consulting and specifically around CS ops. So it's the next logical phase for me.
what's that transition been like? Like, you kind of, I don't know, I almost equate to it like swiveling your chair a little bit. Like you were external facing, you're helping
Mhm,
external people, and then you sort of swiveled and you're like, okay, now I'm going to help the business. And then now, you're consultant. And so,
mhm.
you're helping businesses, but now from, maybe a different perspective or, you're outside of the family, so to speak, I guess, looking in. What is that career like? What are some of the challenges or was it easy to move from one of those to the next, or were there
The-
challenges along the way?
It was relatively easy. The challenge going from being a field, ECSM or customer success manager into strategy, into, an internal role, if you will, was really around change management and battling the same type of or handling same type of issues that we're seeing in all the different companies, siloed organizations, processes that need to be a little bit more mature. And also, I think it was more around that. You're right in regards to now, okay, pivoting from there now into a CS ops role. You know, the how I view this, okay, at least going into this, how I view this is really, making the CS team, the CSMs, the companies, more effective, okay, and more successful. So if you want to look at it this way, it's again, not to date myself, but if you want to look at it this way, I become the Q, if you will, to James Bond in those movies, or it's the Formula One race car, engineer, if you will, to enable the success. And again, what I have, one of the key things that I've done over the career and you're seeing that in the CS community, and you're seeing this in CSMs as well. You've got a lot of young talent coming into this space, okay? And I had the great opportunity to be able to reach down and whether it's mentor or provide some help out with the academy training and all. So, my perspective has always been to help out and to empower. Where I think that the challenge for me pivoting into CS ops is now I'm back to the future, if you will, as a system configurator, implementer, as a coder, at least from a theory standpoint, and it's really now becoming fluent in that language as well. So I'm progressing. I'm progressing along. Have already earned the first certification, if you will, for one of the solution providers. But that's where I think that's where the challenge is going to be: is how do you get more of a fluency around that? And that's just going to take exercising and practice and all.
I like these analogies. They're awesome. I mean, maybe you're the Watson to someone's Sherlock. We'll see. But I want to explore, like you just mentioned it, the applications, the
Right.
CSP, the customer success platforms that
Hmm.
are out there, and you're diving deep into that space.
Hmm.
Where does that sit? Quite know how to form my question, but where
Hmm.
does it sit in the world of CS ops? Is it do you tend to be like, okay, we stood up a CSP, so we should build everything, pack everything in around it? Does the CSP come later after some strategy has been developed? Like, explain to me where you plunk the CSP into CS ops.
Yeah. I mean, I guess how I view this is, I mean, ultimately, the solution is a tool, if you will, and an enabler. All right. But you're still going to need to have business processes, and you're still going to need to have organizational structure. Okay. So it's all three of them have to come into play, if you will, with this. Now, that does not mean that you need to boil the ocean. Okay. You can get started. You can do as light as you want. You can do as heavy as you want. Again, how I end up viewing it is that my end users, if you will, is the internal organization. Okay. So, one of the challenges that I've seen in real life, actually, as being a CSM, is that there was a CSP that was in place. Okay. But it was, I'm going to say built, it was implemented, if you will, from a theoretical standpoint. There was nobody who ever walked in the end user's shoes, if you will, the CSMs or the executives and all, to say, does this make sense to have, I don't know, 20 different steps, if you will, okay, to do this, all right? But again, as some of the smaller SaaS and cloud companies, as they're starting to go, it's where you start to see the turning point is really when these companies have, let's say, 100 customers, and they can't throw people at it anymore. Excel doesn't work, if you will, for to scale, if you will, with that anymore. So what you can do is you can come in with these CSPs and pre-configuration, all right, to really start to embed a process. So you don't have to, again, boil the ocean as far as, okay, let's define what the process is and all. It's that if you don't have one already, let's come in, let's start, because the idea is that you're going to get started, and you want the folks to start to embed and get a habit of doing these processes, of doing these things. All right, with that. So
I like that. If we go back to one of the analogies, you're talking about the mechanic to the race car driver. Like you started as a race car driver, then you became the mechanic. So as you
yeah.
described, like you're more aware of what's it like driving. So maybe you can be a better mechanic. It feels like as well, like when you're a CSM or you're customer facing to some degree, you're just the coach behind the scenes in a way. Like you try to infer to your customer, hey, do this, do that, whatnot, but you're not in control. is as you move into, I'm curious about this because this has been something in my career. Like as I moved into operations, I just love the
Right.
control. Like I love to actually get my hands dirty and like, oh, you want me to fix the engine? All right, let's get under the engine and get some grease under our fingernails and actually make it happen. Whereas when you're just customer facing, like you never really get your hands dirty. You can stay in a white
Right.
button shirt and you'd never have any oil stain on you.
Right.
Is there something about that in your DNA as well? I guess are you
Well,
you like getting your hands dirty?
that I mean, and I said that's it. We're back to the future with this, okay? Because it's a degree in computer science. Was started as a coder with languages that or no more, if you will. But then a system implementer configured the stuff with pre-sales. But the other thing is that from a CSM standpoint, all right, what I have always found, and what I would encourage new folks coming into this, okay, is to have some type of technical or solution knowledge. And what I mean by that, Sean, is that the I've had times in where as a CSM, as customer facing, I've had to understand they were having some data integration problems, or at least wanted to know how do we do data integration with this particular package, if you will, with that. All right. I, as a CSM, needed to get on the phone with our product management folks just to understand, hey, can you give me one or two slides that at least has the flow with that? So that it's if you want to look at it this way, back in those days, okay, it was I guess I was sort of like the hobbyist, if you will, with this tinkering around, okay, and now it's coming back full force with this. So that's to say, it's to me, it's picking up a new language, if you will. All right, and it's gaining that fluency. It's being able to think like the how the CSP is architected, being able to think like how that is, all right, and then it all starts to come natural. And to me, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's I've always enjoyed that. That's a lot of fun. And like I said, now the added benefit is that not only is it fun for me, okay, but it's practical for the folks that I'm doing it with, whether it's the company folks, okay, or whether it's for the actual end customer, if you will, with that.
I love this language analogy, and I don't know. I sense, Rob, that it probably started as a literal thing. Like, okay, you came out with knowing some languages. What languages do you recommend folks learn as they're going into CS ops? And you can be
Uh,
literal in that and
well,
be like, oh yeah, you better start learning
I,
Python, or be more figurative and like you need to learn the language of data, or you need to learn a language
well,
of change management. So,
yeah, yeah. And
what do you think?
all right, yeah. So from a coding language standpoint, I mean, I'm too far away from that, Matthew. I mean, I started programming in C, okay, and then did programming in COBOL as well too. So I mean, then I say that's way back when. But you bring up it, but your other example in regards to what are the IT concepts, okay? That whether it's some coming up into CS ops, okay, or coming into as the CSM needs to be familiar with, all right. So it's data integration, okay. It's I'm going to say data file structures, okay. So it's not gee, this is these are the physical databases at the hyperscaler, okay. But it's more a matter of how is the data constructed? If I need to start to do an advanced report, all right, among these two, different data sets, if you will, logically, how does that work? All right, with that, you also mentioned, and it's not technical, all right, but change management and emotional intelligence, okay, I mean that's huge, and I would say that's for both CS ops as well as for CS for customer facing as well too. The change management can go 1,000 different ways, all right, but what I have found, okay, is to set and define a North Star or a vision, if you will, all right, and then constantly come back to it. So it's understand who your audience is, who are the folks that you're trying to work for. What is it what is it that is important to them, if you will, all right, and then how do what you want to do actually makes their lives easier, or starts to benefit them, if you will, and then constantly go back to that, if you will, with them. I will say that a challenge that I've seen more often than not, okay, uh, um, in regards to how people approach technology, okay, from a like you said, a rollout standpoint, is that everything's function feature. Okay, so whether it is, we're going to train the customer end users, all right, or power users, or we're going to train our own folks or whatever, let's sit down and I'm going to take you through the thousand different features today. Okay, what I have found is that obviously that's not effective, but everyone seems to stay that way. What I much prefer, all right, and it's something I did when I was a CSM. It's something, it's the approach that I take now as well. Is a day in the life of, well, what's practical. Okay, so you get back into, Jean, in regards to where do you start? Do you do the organization? Do you do the processes? Do you do the technology and all? And that's, if you take a day in the life approach, you end up starting to meld all that. All right. And again, if you paint the vision and then you have the day in the life, all right, it starts to move forward and starts to make it a little bit easier.
I love that analogy, and I'm reminded. I'm going to put the spotlight on me just for a second, but I'm reminded of this every time I'm at the gym. Because, and here's why: the folks at my gym, the folks who run my gym, I think are forever giving tours, right? Every time I'm there working out,
Right.
someone's there on a tour, and the folks who run the gym are forever like, "There's the dumbbell rack, there's the leg machines, there's the treadmills. Okay,
Yeah.
around the corner is the room where we teach spin or whatever." And I'm always like, why don't you say, here's where you would work out your heart. Here's where
Right.
you would get stronger. Here's
Yeah.
where you'd go if you really hope to work your legs. And like every time they give this tour and I hear them do it, CS Ops is in my head because I guess
Yes.
just that much of a geek. When I'm like, oh yeah, they're totally talking about features and I wish they were talking about value.
That's it. And that's exactly. And it's the same approach with the customers from a value realization standpoint. Okay, it's what I'll call vision to value cycle. Right. So in the upfront in the sales process, the initial sales process and all, you're setting the vision. All right. So as a CS person, you're coming in later in the game. All right. But the customer has already said, this is what this is what I want to do. This is what my business goals are. Okay. The company is already, the software provider has already demoed, hey, here are the features. Hopefully the features tied to the what the business object, what the goals are. All right. And then, going in and now achieving the vision and then expanding the vision and all with that. So, it's always going back to, like you said, this is where you do your cardio, okay? Especially if you want to train for that, the upcoming, half marathon that's happening in your city this year, if you will, with that. All right. And it's constantly going back to that. So so I'm excited about that, because it shows that you're caring about it shows you care about the customer. And it's the same approach I take with the CS ops as well too. What's the vision? Okay. And how does this make your life easier with that?
I always try to think back to like Lincoln Murphy's account plus, or sorry, outcomes plus experience equals customer success. Or I often
Yeah.
think that nowadays, often say it equals NRR now,
Hmm.
just to get really down to basics here. It equals money. That's what you want in life. So I love that aspect, because I think that's like, we can't forget about those building blocks. Like that's truly what it's all about. How do you drive customer outcomes and make
Yeah.
sure that it's a positive experience? To your example, Matthew, like they clearly are forgetting about those outcomes. Maybe they're thinking about experience and let me guide you through everything and be nice about it. But they're forgetting what outcome or what purpose does this all provide. I suspect, like, it's almost like you can do that to the external customer, you can do that to, internally as a CS ops person, and we should be thinking about that. Like, but our customer is the CSM or
Hmm.
whoever else is using the tool. And I would hope that you're also thinking about it as a consultant, that you also have a customer and they have outcomes and you're trying to deliver an experience. Like, to me,
Yeah.
that's like language that you should learn in every aspect. And even if you work at a gym or if you work at a coffee shop, if you in any aspect of dealing with a customer, whoever that customer is, like what's the outcomes and what's the experience? Is that
Well, and that's exactly it. The one of the traps or one of the slippery slopes that happens with the CS organization, okay, is and the CSMs is that they start to fall back into a support mode, or firefighting, okay, and I used to get all the customers that did not want to renew. It was all the, hey, they thrown out three CSMs and you're the next one up if you with that. And I love that because it's if you care, you give them a hug and you really start to fight for them and you work through what the problems are. You can't go down anymore. Okay, they've already thrown out people,
starting at the
so you've
bottom?
got anything to come up. So you're absolutely right, Sean. That's exactly it. It's that you want to move more towards that direction.
Tell us in your illustrious 30-year career,
Mhm.
like, what have you seen change? Like, there aren't many folks who can say, I've been at this in the CS space for 30 years. And, some would say that CS hasn't even been around for 30 years. But I do think you've been doing the work of CS,
Yeah.
even if it wasn't labeled as such. So tell us what you've seen change.
I think it's I've seen more and more recognition of the importance of the customers. Okay, and what I mean by that is that it's I'm seeing companies embrace, software providers embrace, and consulting companies embrace, if you will, a business partnership mentality as opposed to transactional, if you will. Okay, that we come in, we do our service, and that's a buyer supplier. So I'm seeing more and more importance around the being placed around the customers. All right. Um, it still needs to mature a little bit more with that. I think another thing that I'm starting to see more also is the at least the recognition of the silos in the companies. Okay, and that there is a need for everybody to work together, sales to work together with CS, to work together with consulting, to work together with product and whatever. All right, and then obviously the tools are coming up and supporting all of that, the CSPs, if you will, with that. So I think that's the big thing. What had surprised me as I started to step out of SAP is those are the areas, uh, uh, but there's I thought the industry would be a little bit further along, if you will, with that. I thought companies would be breaking down the silos a little bit more. So it's I think there's a recognition. I think it's they need to proceed a little bit further.
And some would say with the advent of CSPs, we've created them instead of tearing them down. And not to
Yeah,
all on the CSPs, but there is a sentiment out there that, well, we just actually built a new silo instead of trying to tear one down. So yeah, I think we'll forever be tearing down silos.
yeah. And you know what? And it's a tool, okay? And it's a matter of you can use it for good or you can cut your fingers off. I mean, so it's yeah.
I
So
like that. The we're talking about merge. Like I truly believe like what's pushing that momentum is like, we were just tossing CDs out at customers before and they
yeah,
just download the app or install it from there. But like now it's so much is more commoditized and experience
yeah,
is kind of trumping and driving value is trumping like just the software on its own. And I think the customer experience is pushing us to get more connected across these silos. Like you
yes,
can't have a salesperson just talk and then, start the conversation over with a CSM and then start again with a services rep or whatever it may be. So I think experience is driving some of that breakdown. I'm curious, like, where do you think CSPs, like on that notion, like because we have different islands of system
hmm
data, is like, what's your thoughts on how do we break down those silos in the future? Is it, or do
Well,
CSPs have a home or a future?
well, yeah, I mean it's because I don't know, I don't see where any other systems are actually doing what some of the leading CSPs do. I mean, so there's no question at all that I mean, they're going to be essential and key, at least to the CS organization. All right. The question becomes is you're right. You know, more and more companies are starting to map out their customer value journey. Okay, so the customer life cycle, if you will, with that, and as at least as a focal point for the various different business processes, and therefore then what are the different systems. The challenge that you've got, okay, is I wouldn't go back, I would not say that, you know, do CSPs exist in the future? Absolutely. The question you've got is how are you doing data rationalization? Okay, and how are you, I mean, how I view it, the CSP is the house. Okay, the what are you doing for your foundation on the house? Okay, you know, I think this is where a lot of the early start, you know, SaaS companies and all, you know, because you've got legacy systems that are a lot, you know, fewer. All right, but as you get to be more established and whatever else, you know, gee, I don't know, I've got maybe 9 different customer records. Okay,
Yeah.
or maybe, you know, from an adoption standpoint, gee, you know, product never thought about having an adoption metric for this particular feature, and all of a sudden it's important. So I think data is and the need for clean or rationalized or structured data is going to be key. I also think that's, I mean, everybody talks about AI and embedding AI with business processes. I mean, it's, let's just don't forget about the data, okay? Because I don't know how, for some of the situations I've seen, I don't, you know, it's going to be a multi-year project to try and have some type of clean data, if you will, or data that can be used.
Yeah. All three of us have actually worked with fairly large enterprises. And so I think we've all got scars and all sorts
Yeah.
of baggage as a result of data. I've consulted with a few startups where they have, 100 customers and they're built in the cloud. And it's like so cute how their data problems are so minor
Right.
in the
Yeah.
grand
Yeah.
scheme of things. But I always think, yeah, if you're a startup, if you're thinking about this, like make sure your data model is strong because it gets a lot worse
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
when you're grown up and you have too many data problems.
Yeah. Yeah. You just can't, you just can't do what you need to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all. And then you're back to where everything's a manual process. Okay. Gee, it takes a month to do a QBR, an executive meeting, if you will, because I've got to I've got to gather adoption and usage information from 10 different sources, if you will. I've got to rationalize that with what's the contract terms. Okay. And then forget about taking it to the next level, which is, and this is what I always saw at all the customers. Okay. And it flows nicely into CS ops, but what are others doing? Okay.
Mhm.
There hasn't been a customer that I have not managed that has said, well, gee, who else in my industry is doing this? Or what else are they doing? Okay. Basically, they're asking for best practices.
Yeah.
Okay. With that. So it's no, you can't take advantage of any of that if you're just scrambling around with chasing the data.
I think if Maslow were around today, there was the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and it's like the first thing is, oh gosh, now I'll probably embarrass myself, but it's like shelter, like you just need
I
to
think so.
survive,
Yeah.
food or
Yeah.
something
And
like
that's
that.
it. That's the
I
same
think if
thing.
Maslow were here
Yeah.
today, he'd be like,
Yeah.
"Dave,
Yeah. No,
or
that, I mean,
maybe it'd
that's
be
it.
second on the pyramid
Yeah.
after food. It'd be like
Yeah.
your data hygiene
Yeah.
is at the
And
bottom
that,
because you can't, you're right, you can't do AI and you can't do fancy workflows in your
but
CSP or
it's not the
whatever
sexy
without it.
part. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the point. It's not sexy, so you know, no one wants to address it or whatever. You know, so it's yeah, but that's exactly it. If you're going to embed AI into the business processes, okay, and you can't get the data that needs to be fed that, all right, it just isn't going to happen. Don't even start. Don't even start. So
That's great. As we sort of wind down here, any like if well maybe two parts of this question. Anything that you wish you had known back when you were uh, starting out or looking at getting into CS ops that maybe our audience members should learn read it like quickly instead of maybe taking too long? And then the second part, like anything that
Mhm.
you're predicting in the future, like where are we going with all this? Is there any thoughts around the future of CS ops?
Well, so I mean, I think the future. I think we started to talk about that with AI embedded, business processes to increase the effectiveness of the CS organization. I think that's how that is, if you will. You know, lessons learned coming into CS ops, moving into CS ops, if you will, with that. It's you know, if you've got if you understand the technical concepts, and this gets back to Matthew as to what we had discussed around the data structure and all the theory, if you will. Okay, I think it makes it easier, if you will, with that. A bonus, okay, obviously is being familiar with the CSM processes and the processes around the business processes around CS, but it's really about becoming fluent, if you will, in the language of the CSP, in the just how they think, okay, and how what their perspective is on that. So I think that, I mean, related to that, Jean, or a tangent to that, is as we have more and more early talent coming in, as we have more and more early career or mid-career folks in CS ops, and CS in general, if you will. I mean, I think it's absolutely great. I think it's a lot of fun. Okay, I think it's very rewarding. Some of the things, they do need to have some thick skin, both internally as well as externally with the customers and all, because you're going to have some difficult conversations with that. All right, but making a customer successful, whether it's achieving the business outcomes that they want, or solving a big problem, or pushing a feature into the product and all. I mean, to me, that's just it. I mean, it makes my year, if you will, with that, when you're able to actually help out a customer. It's I've always said I was there to make the customers wildly successful and incredibly happy. Okay, inside of CS Ops, I just pivot that a little bit and say, well, I'm making the CSMs and the CS organization, the execs, wildly successful and incredibly happy by giving them the tools that they need to do their job effectively.
Wildly successful and incredibly happy. I love that as marching orders. That's awesome. Rob, it's been awesome to talk with you. Thanks for sharing so much of your vast experience. I don't know if we've had anyone with as much longevity in the industry as you have today. Maybe we have, but I'm just thanking you for bringing that to us and to our audience today. It was great talking with you.
Well, thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Jean. It's been a real pleasure, and yeah, always happy to help. So it was great to share it with you.